in the heart of a quiet suburban neighborhood, where every house bore the marks of mundane routines, something unsettling crept beneath the surface, disrupting the peaceful facade. The story unfolds with the Harrington family, who had recently moved into their dream home, blissfully unaware of the chilling events that were about to unfold. The house, a picturesque Victorian with a sprawling garden, seemed perfect. But as the Harringtons settled in, peculiar incidents began to disrupt their tranquility. It started subtly. A creaking floorboard, a cold draft in rooms without windows, and shadows that seemed to loom a little too closely. The family dismissed these occurrences as quirks of the old house. However, the true terror began one fateful night that would forever be etched in their memories. It was a stormy evening, and the power had flickered out, plunging the house into darkness as the family huddled together, trying to make the best of the situation with stories and candlelight. A series of sharp, insistent knocks echoed from the front door, thinking it might be a neighbor seeking refuge from the storm. Mr. Harrington cautiously approached the door, but upon peering through the peephole, his blood ran cold. There was no one there. The knocking persisted, growing more frantic with each passing moment. Each member of the family took turns to verify, only to find the porch empty every time. The knocking seemed to be coming from nowhere and everywhere at once, enveloping the house in an aura of dread. As the storm outside raged on, the Harringtons realized that this was no ordinary occurrence. The air grew thick with tension, and an inexplicable chill settled over the house. Whispers seemed to float down the hallways, and the once comforting shadows now harbored unseen watchers. The family was gripped by a fear so palpable. It was as though another presence had taken up residence among them. In desperation, they contacted the local authorities, but the storm had rendered the roads impassable. They were on their own until dawn. As the night progressed, the knocks grew into thuds, as if something was trying to break its way in. But every time the door was checked, the eerie emptiness of the night greeted them. With the first light of dawn, the disturbances ceased as abruptly as they had begun. The Harringtons, exhausted and bewildered, found no evidence of the night's terror. Neighbors claimed to have heard nothing, and the local lore offered no explanation for their experience. The family was left with more questions than answers. Who or what was at the door? Was the house reliving a fragment of its past? Or had they been the target of an unfathomable terror? The story ends here, leaving the Harringtons and the reader hanging on the edge of uncertainty, pondering the mysteries of the night. The true nature of the terror at the door remains a haunting enigma, a story waiting to be continued. In the weeks that followed the harrowing night, the Harrington family tried to regain a semblance of normalcy, but the shadow of that terror lingered like a dark cloud over their home. The neighborhood returned to its quiet routine, and the incident at the Harrington house became a whispered tale of unease among the locals. The family, in search of answers, delved into the history of their home. They learned that the house had been built in the late 1800s by a reclusive and eccentric inventor, Thomas Weller, whose life was shrouded in mystery and tragedy. Rumors suggested that Weller had been obsessed with the idea of transcending the boundaries between the living and the dead, dedicating his life to experiments that were said to have taken place in in the very walls of the Harringtons' home. Driven by a mix of fear and curiosity, the family decided to investigate the house further. They discovered a hidden room in the basement, behind a false wall, which contained remnants of old, strange machinery and journals filled with frantic scribblings that hinted at Weller's experiments. The room exuded an unsettling cold, and the air was thick with the scent of old metal and earth. As they pored over the journals, the Harringtons found references to a device Weller claimed could open doorways to the other side. The entries became increasingly disjointed, with mentions of visitors knocking at his door, eager to cross over. The last entry was a frantic apology, scribbled in a shaky hand, warning of a threshold that should never have been crossed. The discovery left the family with an ominous feeling. Were the events they experienced connected to Weller's experiments? Had their home become a beacon for something beyond their understanding? Their questions remained unanswered as the disturbances resumed with a new intensity. Knocking evolved into an incessant pounding that roamed the walls of the house, as if something was desperately trying to find its way in or out. Objects began to move on their own, and the family would often wake to find furniture rearranged, as though the house itself was shifting. One evening, as a dense fog enveloped the neighborhood, the youngest Harrington, Lily, claimed she saw a figure standing in the garden, staring up at the house. It was a silhouette, barely discernible, but unmistakably human. When she blinked, it was gone, leaving no trace in the dew-covered grass. The family installed security cameras, but the footage revealed nothing. Even as the disturbances continued, the local priest, brought in to bless the house, left abruptly, pale and shaken, refusing to speak of what he'd felt within its walls. As autumn bled into winter, the atmosphere in the house grew heavier. The family, once vibrant and full of life, now moved like shadows through the rooms, jumping at the slightest sound. Friends and relatives stopped visiting, deterred by the palpable sense of dread that clung to the Harringtons and their home. One night, as a new storm approached, the family gathered in the living room, much like they had on that first terrifying night. The wind howled, and the house groaned as if in anticipation. The knocking began again, but this time it was accompanied by a voice, a whisper that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, repeating a name over and over. Weller. The story leaves the Harrington family on the brink of a terrifying revelation. Their home, a nexus of unexplained phenomena that defies the boundary between the living and the dead. What lies ahead is a mystery. The true extent of Thomas Weller's experiments and the nature of the visitors at the door remaining a chilling enigma, inviting the reader to ponder the unseen forces that might lurk just beyond our understanding, waiting for their moment to cross over. The Harrington family, now deeply entangled in the eerie legacy of Thomas Weller, found themselves at a crossroads. The mysterious whisper of Weller that echoed through the stormy night ignited a desperate need for answers. Despite their fear, they realized that understanding Weller's intentions and experiments might be the key to unraveling the terror that held their home in its grip. Determined, the family delved deeper into Weller's journals, uncovering diagrams and notes that hinted at a complex apparatus designed to bridge worlds. The more they learned, the more they felt the presence in the house grow restless, as if stirred by their probing into its origins. Amidst this search for answers, strange occurrences in the neighborhood began to surface. Pets went missing, and residents reported seeing fleeting shadows and hearing unexplained whispers, similar to those the Harringtons had experienced. It seemed as though the disturbances were no longer confined to the Harrington house, but were slowly seeping into the fabric of the entire community. One evening, as the family sat in the study, poring over Weller's cryptic notes, they experienced a sudden, intense cold that swept through the room. The air shimmered as if charged with electricity, and the pages of the journal flipped wildly as though caught in a gust of wind. Then, as abruptly as it had begun, the room fell still, and a single page lay open on the floor. It was a detailed sketch of a door, unlike any ordinary door, marked with symbols that none of the Harringtons recognized. The sketch seemed to be a blueprint, and accompanying notes suggested that this door was Weller's final experiment, a culmination of his life's work. The family was struck by a chilling thought. Could this door be within their home? And if so, had their presence somehow activated it? Compelled by a mix of dread and determination, the Harringtons decided to search their home for any structure that matched the door in the sketch. Their search led them to the attic, a place they had avoided, filled with relics of the past and shrouded in cobwebs. There, hidden behind old furniture and draped in shadows, they found it. A door that matched Weller's drawing, its surface etched with the strange symbols. As they stood before it, the house seemed to hold its breath. The door was securely locked, with no visible means of opening it. The symbols glowed faintly in the dim light of the attic, pulsing with an unseen energy. The family was now faced with an impossible decision: to open the door and confront what lay beyond, risking everything in the hope of ending their nightmare, or to leave it untouched, living in perpetual fear of the unknown forces at play in their home. The story leaves the Harringtons on the threshold of the unknown, the mysterious door standing as a silent guardian to secrets that straddle the line between science and the supernatural. What lies beyond it, and whether the Harringtons will dare to find out, remains a haunting question, the answer to which lies shrouded in the shadows of the unknown, waiting for the courage to explore the depths of the terror at the door. As the Harringtons stood before the enigmatic door in the attic, the storm outside intensified, mirroring the turmoil within them. The symbols on the door seemed to dance in the flickering candlelight, casting long, twisted shadows across the dusty floorboards. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for what would come next. The family debated their next move. Opening the door could potentially rid their home of the disturbances that plagued it, but it could also unleash something far beyond their comprehension. The risk was immense, yet the lure of answers and the possibility of peace was equally compelling. Their deliberation was abruptly cut short by a sudden, sharp drop in temperature. Their breath became visible in the air, and the candles flickered violently, casting erratic shadows that seemed to writhe on the walls. The symbols on the door glowed brighter, pulsating with an otherworldly energy. In a moment of reckless courage, or perhaps desperation, Mr. Harrington reached out towards the door, his hand trembling as it neared the cold, carved surface. But before his fingers could graze the symbols, a deafening crash echoed through the house, as if every window had shattered at once. The family recoiled in terror, and the attic was plunged into darkness as the candles snuffed out. When they finally mustered the courage to relight the candles, they found the door slightly ajar, the lock inexplicably undone. The room beyond was shrouded in an impenetrable darkness that seemed to swallow the light from their candles, rendering them useless. The Harringtons stood on the threshold, peering into the abyss that lay beyond the door. The air emanating from the room was frigid, carrying with it the faintest whisper of voices. Or perhaps it was just the wind. They could see nothing, yet the sense of being watched, of malevolent eyes just beyond the veil of darkness, was overwhelming. With hearts pounding and minds fraught with indecision, the family was at an impasse. To step through the door could mean confronting the source of their terror, but it could also mean stepping into a realm from which there was no return. As they deliberated, a soft, melodic hum began to emanate from the darkness, a lullaby that seemed both familiar and otherworldly. It was enchanting, almost inviting, beckoning them to step forward and discover its source. And so, the story leaves the Harrington family on the brink of the unknown. The open door, a gateway to possibilities both terrifying and tantalizing. What lies beyond is a mystery that beckons with a whispered promise of answers and the ominous threat of untold horrors. The decision to cross the threshold remains hanging in the balance, a moment frozen in time, waiting for the courage to explore the unseen and the resolve to face whatever may come. The terror at the door stands as an unresolved enigma, its secrets veiled in darkness, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. In the dim light of the attic, the Harringtons stood frozen, the haunting melody seeping from the darkness beyond the door, weaving around them like a tangible force. The lullaby, while eerily comforting, carried an undercurrent of sorrow, a mournful echo from the abyss that seemed to resonate with the very walls of the house. The decision to cross the threshold was wrested from their hands when a sudden gust of wind, cold as the depths of winter, burst from the dark room, extinguishing the candles walls once again and enveloping them in an oppressive darkness. In that moment, the boundary between their world and whatever lay beyond the door blurred, and they found themselves propelled forward by an unseen force. The darkness consumed them, a void so complete that it seemed to swallow not just the light, but sound itself, save for the haunting lullaby that now filled their ears with an overwhelming intensity. They could not see, but they could feel the space around them expanding, as if the room beyond the door was far larger than the physical confines of their house should allow. As their eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness, they began to discern shapes in the void, ethereal forms that moved with a grace that was almost fluid. These forms seemed to be drawn to the melody, swirling around the source of the sound, which they could now see was a small, intricately carved music box sitting on a pedestal in the center of the room. The music box was an anomaly, its craftsmanship unlike anything from the era of the house or any known period. It was as if the object was both ancient and not of this world. Its design complex and adorned with symbols that echoed those on the door. Compelled by a mixture of fear and fascination, the family moved closer to the music box. As they did, the forms around them grew more distinct, revealing themselves to be spectral figures, their features blurred and shifting, yet unmistakably human. These figures did not seem to notice the Harringtons. Instead, they remained fixated on the music box, their movements synchronized with its haunting tune. The atmosphere in the room was thick with a melancholy longing, a palpable sense of loss and yearning that seemed to emanate from the spectral figures themselves. It was as if the music box was a beacon, drawing these lost souls to it, offering them a momentary respite, or perhaps a reminder of something they had long forgotten. As the Harringtons stood there, enveloped in the spectral ballet, they realized that the room and the music box might be at the heart of the disturbances in their home. Was this room a gateway, a bridge between the living and the dead that Thomas Weller had inadvertently opened with his experiments? And if so, what was the purpose of the music box? Was it a key to closing the gateway? Or was it something more? Something that tied the very fabric of their reality to the world beyond. The melody began to reach a crescendo, the spectral figures moving faster around the music box, their forms becoming more agitated, more desperate. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the music stopped, plunging the room into a silence so profound it felt like a physical weight. The figures vanished, and the darkness seemed to recede, pulling back to reveal the walls of the attic, the familiar surroundings of the Harrington home. But the door remained open, the symbols still glowing faintly, a silent testament to the unresolved mystery that lay beyond. The story leaves the Harrington family in the aftermath of an encounter that defies explanation, standing at the crossroads of the known and the unknown. The true nature of the music box, the spectral figures, and the door itself remains shrouded in mystery, a puzzle that beckons with the promise of answers yet to be discovered. The terror at the door remains, a story suspended in the shadows, waiting for the courage to delve deeper into the darkness and unravel the secrets that lie within. Harringtons, now deeply ensnared in the web of their home's mysteries, found themselves at a crossroads of the arcane and the unknown. The vision of the vast library and the cloaked figure had imbued them with a sense of purpose, a conviction that the answers they sought were within reach, hidden in the cryptic language that had resonated through the vision. Driven by this new lead, the family embarked on a quest to decipher the unknown language. Consulting linguists and experts in ancient scripts, delving into the esoteric and the occult, each piece of knowledge they unearthed seemed to add another layer to the puzzle, suggesting that the language was not just a means of communication, but a key to unlocking higher realms of understanding and power. Amidst this quest for knowledge, the house itself seemed to respond. The once intermittent disturbances grew more frequent, manifesting as fleeting glimpses of figures in the corners of their vision and whispers that echoed down the hallways, always just out of reach. It was as if the house, or perhaps something within it, was becoming more active, aware of the family's efforts to uncover its secrets. One cold, moonlit night, as the family pored over ancient texts in the study, the music box began to play of its own accord, its melody more complex and compelling than ever before. The air around them vibrated with energy, and before them, the space seemed to warp, a ripple in the fabric of reality that expanded to reveal another vision. This time, the vision depicted a chamber, illuminated by the soft glow of candlelight, where the cloaked figure stood before an elaborate altar. On the altar lay an open book, its pages filled with the same cryptic script they had heard in the previous vision. The figure raised its hands, and the symbols on the pages began to glow, casting a radiant light that filled the chamber. The family watched, mesmerized, as the figure chanted in the unknown language, the melody of the music box intertwining with the words to create a harmonious symphony of sound and light. The air in the study grew thick with the scent of ancient incense, and the walls seemed to fade away, leaving them suspended in the timeless space of the vision. As the chanting reached a crescendo, a portal of swirling light appeared above the altar, and through it, the family could see glimpses of other worlds, realms of indescribable beauty and darkness, each pulsing with its own unique energy. But just as the figure turned to beckon them through the portal, the vision shattered like glass, the fragments dissolving into the night, leaving the family in the dimly lit study, the music box's melody fading into silence. The story leaves the Harrington family on the precipice of the unknown. The shattered vision, a tantalizing glimpse into realms beyond their comprehension. The connection between the music box, the visions, and the disturbances within the house grows ever more intricate. A tapestry of mystery and power that envelops their home. What lies beyond the portal, and the true nature of the cloaked figure and the cryptic language remain veiled in shadow, a narrative thread waiting to be unraveled in the continuing saga of the terror at the door. In the aftermath of the shattered vision, the Harringtons found themselves enveloped in a silence that was almost oppressive. The absence of the music box's melody leaving a void that seemed to echo through the house. The glimpse of otherworldly realms had expanded their understanding of what might be possible, but it had also deepened the mystery that surrounded the music box and the entity or force that was communicating through it. The family's research took on a new urgency, driven by the tantalizing possibility of worlds beyond their own and the cryptic figure that seemed to serve as a guide through the visions. They scoured ancient texts for any reference to the portal and the realms they had glimpsed, seeking to understand the purpose behind the visions and the role they were meant to play. As winter deepened, wrapping the house in a blanket of snow and silence, the Harringtons began to notice subtle shifts in the atmosphere. The disturbances that had once been confined to shadows and whispers were becoming more tangible, more assertive. Objects would move with deliberate intent, and the air would occasionally ripple with a charged energy, as if something was attempting to breach the veil between their world and another. One evening, as the family gathered in the study, the music box stirred to life once more. Its melody, a complex tapestry of sound that seemed to resonate at the very core of their beings. The air in the room thickened, and a palpable sense of anticipation filled the space, as if the music box was preparing them for another revelation. This time, the vision that unfolded was starkly different from the others. It showed the house, but not as they knew it. The rooms were darker, the shadows deeper, and there was a sense of foreboding that permeated the vision. The cloaked figure was there, moving through the house with a sense of purpose, its movements more urgent than before. The figure paused in the attic, before the door with the mysterious symbols, and placed its hand upon the surface. The door glowed with a fierce light, and the symbols began to shift, rearranging themselves into a new configuration. The figure turned to face the Harringtons, its features still obscured, and spoke a single word in the cryptic language, a word that reverberated through the vision and into the study, imbued with power and urgency. But before the family could grasp the meaning of the word or the significance of the changing symbols on the door, the vision fractured, dissolving into a cascade of light and shadow that swept through the study and extinguished the candles, plunging them into darkness. When the lights were restored, the family found the music box closed and silent, as if it had never been opened. The air was still charged with the remnants of the vision, leaving them with a sense of unease and a myriad of questions. What was the significance of the door and the changing symbols? What was the word spoken by the figure? And what were they being urged to do? The story leaves the Harrington family in the wake of a new mystery. The changing symbols on the door in the attic, and the cryptic word, a new thread in the intricate tapestry of events that surrounded them. The nature of the urgency conveyed by the cloaked figure, and the implications of the altered symbols on the door remain shrouded in mystery. A puzzle that beckons from the shadows, inviting the family to step closer to the unknown as the saga of the terror at the door continues to unfold. The word spoken by the cloaked figure in the vision lingered in the air of the Harrington study, a cryptic echo that seemed to imbue the very walls of the house with a sense of urgency. The family felt an unspoken understanding that the key to unraveling the mysteries that bound them to the house and the music box lay in deciphering the significance of the word and the altered symbols on the attic door. Motivated by the vision's intensity, the Harringtons returned to the attic, the heart of the house's strange occurrences. The door, once an ominous barrier, now seemed to beckon them, its symbols alive with a pulsating glow that had not been there before. The rearrangement of the symbols suggested a shift, a change in the rules that governed the boundary between their world and what lay beyond. As they studied the door, the family began to piece together the possible meanings of the word spoken in the vision. It seemed to resonate with themes of opening, awakening, or summoning, suggesting that they were being called to initiate something, perhaps to open the door themselves, or to awaken whatever force lay dormant within it. The cold of the attic seemed to deepen, a tangible reminder of the unknown forces at play. The family stood before the door, each member wrestling with the implications of their next actions. To heed the call of the vision and the cloaked figure could mean stepping into unknown danger, but it might also bring them closer to understanding and possibly ending the haunting that plagued their home. With a collective resolve, they decided to act. Mr. Harrington reached out toward the door, his hand trembling slightly as he traced the symbols that now seemed to invite interaction. As his fingers moved across the surface, the symbols responded, glowing brighter, their energy palpable in the charged air of the attic. Suddenly, the house trembled, a deep vibration that seemed to emanate from the very foundations, resonating with the frequency of the music box's melody, which began to play once again, unbidden. The melody intertwined with the energy of the door, creating a harmonic convergence that enveloped the family in a cocoon of sound and light. In this moment of convergence, the boundary between the physical world and the realm beyond the door thinned, and the Harringtons found themselves on the precipice of revelation. The air before the door shimmered, a visual echo of the portal they had glimpsed in the vision, hinting at the threshold that lay just beyond their reach. But as quickly as it had begun, the convergence faltered. The melody of the music box stuttered and ceased. The glow of the symbols dimmed, and the house stilled, leaving an oppressive silence in the wake of the aborted awakening. The door remained closed, its secrets intact, the moment of revelation slipping through their fingers like sand. in the silence that followed the unsettling halt of the music box and the dimming of the symbols on the door, the Harringtons stood motionless, each member processing the abrupt end to what had felt like a moment of imminent breakthrough. The palpable sense of disappointment was tinged with an undercurrent of fear. Had they come too close to a truth not meant for them? The days that followed were marked by a tense normalcy, the house seemingly retreating into a watchful quietude, as if gathering strength for the next unforeseen event. The family, however, could not shake the feeling of being observed, of being participants in a game whose rules and objectives remained frustratingly opaque. Amid this uneasy peace, the youngest Harrington, Lily, reported a new development. She spoke of dreams, vivid and disconcerting, where she wandered through an endless library, its shelves brimming with books written in the cryptic language they had encountered. In her dreams, the cloaked figure was always present, guiding her through the labyrinth of shelves, its hand pointing out certain books, as if imparting knowledge meant specifically for her. The family took to documenting Lily's dreams, finding within them a consistency that suggested they were more than mere figments of the imagination. The books, the layout of the library, and the presence of the cloaked figure were recurrent themes, each dream revealing a little more detail, as if slowly peeling away layers to reveal the core of the mystery. As winter gave way to the first whispers of spring, an unexpected event propelled the family into the next chapter of their ordeal. The music box, silent since the night of the failed convergence, sprang to life of its own accord. Its melody not the one they had come to know, but something new. A composition that resonated with a sense of urgency and warning. The melody seemed to act as a catalyst, for the house responded with a series of inexplicable phenomena. Doors slammed shut without cause. Lights flickered erratically, and the temperature dropped so suddenly that their breath misted in the air. But it was the appearance of the symbols, glowing not just on the attic door, but now manifesting on walls and windows throughout the house, that filled the family with a deep sense of foreboding. Drawn to the attic by an unspoken consensus, the Harringtons found the door aglow, its symbols pulsating with a fierce light. The air around the door rippled, as if a heat haze had settled in the cold attic. And within this distortion, they glimpsed scenes of other places, other worlds, each flash revealing landscapes both breathtakingly beautiful and terrifyingly alien. As they watched, captivated and horrified in equal measure, the door began to open, a sliver of darkness revealing itself, a darkness so profound it seemed to absorb the very light from the room. The story halts here, with the Harrington family on the cusp of a new revelation, the attic door creaking open to reveal the unknown, the significance of Lily's dreams, the new melody of the music box, and the proliferation of the glowing symbols throughout the house converge on this moment, a threshold about to be crossed. The nature of the darkness beyond the door and the true intentions of the cloaked figure remain shrouded in mystery. The narrative thread of the terror at the door left dangling, waiting for the moment it will be picked up again. woven into the fabric of the Harringtons' eerie saga. As the days turned into weeks, the Harrington family found themselves enveloped in a profound silence, the kind that follows the heart of a storm. The house, once a nexus of unexplained phenomena, now seemed nothing more than a shell, its secrets expended in the climactic event that had taken Lily from them. The open door in the attic, once a source of trepidation, now stood as a solemn monument to her disappearance, despite their initial resolve to seek answers beyond its threshold. Fear and the sting of loss held them back. The library, with its endless shelves and whispered secrets, remained untouched, a silent testament to the mysteries that lay just beyond their reach. As autumn gave way to the cold embrace of winter, a palpable sense of finality settled over the Harrington home. The family, once united in their quest to unravel the house's mysteries, now found themselves drifting apart, each member lost in their own reflections of the events that had transpired. It was on a night when the moon hung low, casting elongated shadows through the windows, that the final chapter of their ordeal began to unfold. The house, as if sensing the impending conclusion, stirred from its slumber, the air charged with an electric anticipation. Without warning, the music box, silent since Lily's departure, sprang to life, its melody a haunting echo that filled the house. The cymbals, dormant for so long, began to glow with a fierce intensity, casting eerie patterns of light and shadow across the walls. Compelled by the music and the light, the family was drawn to the attic, where they found the door not just open, but pulsating with a dark energy. The library beyond, no longer visible. Instead, there was only darkness, a void so deep and complete, it seemed to swallow the very light from the room. From this darkness emerged the cloaked figure, its presence now menacing, a stark contrast to the guide that had led Lily away. Behind it, the void pulsed with the forms of countless other figures, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. The figure spoke, its voice a chilling blend of the familiar and the otherworldly, revealing the truth of the house, the music box, and the door. They were not mere conduits to another realm, but a trap, a gateway designed to lure those with the potential to breach the veil between worlds. Lily, with her innate connection to the library, had been the key to unlocking this gateway. And with her gone, the entity and its minions were free to invade, to claim the Harrington home as a beachhead for their incursion into this world. The family, realizing too late the true nature of their situation, watched in horror as the figures began to pour through the door, the house shaking with the force of their arrival. The melody of the music box reached a frenetic crescendo, the symbols on the door blazing like fire. In a final act of desperation, Mr. Harrington lunged for the music box, hoping to silence it and stem the tide of the invasion. But as his hands closed around the artifact, the house let out a final, shuddering groan, collapsing in upon itself. The attic door and the darkness it held, consuming everything in a maelstrom of light and shadow. When the dawn broke, the Harrington house was no more, reduced to rubble, as if devoured by the earth itself. Of the family, was no sign, their fate entwined with the mysteries of the house and the dark entities that had lain in wait beyond the door. The story concludes here, with the terror at the door sealed once more. The Harrington family, a tragic footnote in a tale of otherworldly intrigue and horror. The music box, the door, and the library remain shrouded in mystery, their secrets buried beneath the ruins. A warning to those who would dare to meddle in the realms beyond our understanding.